Thank you for being here tonight. Tonight, I'm not giving you a sales pitch. It's an hour to help you decide whether this program is the right fit for how you learn. And if it isn't, I'd rather you know that tonight than 3 months from now. I'm Laurie Chua, and I've spent more than 30 years in HR. I've held the PHR, the SPHR California, and the SHRM-SCP. I have worked across many industries, including Fortune 25 companies like Dell Computers and Pfizer. I even worked at SHRM as a knowledge advisor, answering over 5,000 calls a year, answering HR questions from across the country and a few from across the globe. I have also been helping HR professionals globally earn their HR certification. Most of my work now is on the back end of HR decisions as an expert witness, evaluating how documentation, timing, consistency, and process hold up when someone examines them after the fact. I provide an HR expert opinion in depositions and in courtrooms in front of juries. That work is the reason this program exists, because the skills that get scrutinized in a deposition is the same skill the exam measures: judgment under pressure with imperfect facts. Let me start with why this program exists. I've spent over 30 years in HR, but the part that shaped this program most isn't the practitioner years, it's the expert witness work. When I'm retained on a case, I'm not asked whether HR professionals knew the law. I'm asked whether the decision was defensible. Was it documented? Was it consistent with how the organization treated the last three people in the same situation? And was the timing explainable? Did the process get followed, or did someone skip a step because they were in a hurry? I have never once been asked, did they memorize the definition? Never in the 12 years that I've been doing expert witness work. And here's what I noticed with the people that actually failed the certification exams or they struggled. It wasn't because they hadn't studied. They were often the ones who studied the hardest. They could recite the definitions of disparate impact perfectly. Then they'd get a scenario with two reasonable sounding answers and freeze because nobody had taught them how to choose. Just like organizations rarely fail because of bad intent, they fail from a lack of preparation, consistency, or awareness. Candidates fail the same way. I want to show you what failure actually looks like on this exam, because it's not what people assume. It's not, I didn't know this. It's, I knew all four of those answers were things that HR does. Take sequencing, the single most common one. The complaint comes in on Friday afternoon. The supervisor leads that employee's team Monday. Questions asked for the first action: 4 options: launch the investigation, schedule respectful workplace training, escalate to the executive team, or take an interim step to separate the parties pending an investigation. Every one of those is a real thing HR does. 3 of them are wrong here, not because they're bad HR, but because there's a time-bound risk that has to be contained before Monday. The full training addresses a longer-term concern, and escalating defers accountability HR already holds. That candidate didn't have a knowledge gap. They had a sequencing error, and no amount of reading the BASC fixes that. So, how many of you have had that experience? Narrowed it to 2 and just picked one. Meanwhile, something else happened. AI showed up in how everyone studies, And I watched people use it in a way that felt productive and taught them nothing. Here's the honest version. If you paste a practice question into a chat bot and say, B, because you just watched someone else's reason, you didn't reason. You felt like you learned, but you didn't. That's the dangerous part. It produces the sensation of progress without substance. But used the other way, it's the best study tool this field has ever had, because the one thing that's always scarce in exam prep was high quality scenario practice with an explanation of why the close alternative lost. That used to be rationed, 200 questions in a book, and once you'd seen them, they were spent. Now it's not scarce, but only if you use it correctly. That's the whole premise of in the age of AI, not we use AI. Everyone says that. It's here's the discipline. It's here's the discipline for using it. So it builds judgment instead of replacing it. So I built the program I couldn't find. Understand that I'm not claiming I have a secret content. There's no secret content. SHRM publishes the Basque. It's free. It's on their website. And if you read it cover to cover, you will know what's on the exam. Nobody in this room is going to fail because they couldn't find the material. What I couldn't find was a program that taught the decision process. Everybody teaches you what, almost nobody teaches you how to choose. So I built the framework first, before any AI, before any module, before a single slide. Think is for structuring the analysis. Best is for when two answers both sound right. And calm is for when your heart rate spikes at question 87. Then and only then, I built the AI around the frameworks. That order matters. Most AI prep tools are an AI wrapper with some content poured in. This is a reasoning system that happens to use AI to give you unlimited practice at it. Let me show you the philosophy, and then I'll show you the actual machinery so you can judge it for yourself rather than taking my word for it. So this is a philosophy stated plainly. Most programs teach content. I teach judgment. I want to be precise about what I mean, because we teach judgment is the kind of thing everyone says. Here's what it means operationally. I have assumed that you have read the Basque. I'm not going to spend our time reading it to you. I spend our time on the thing that actually separates a pass from a fail, how you choose between two defensible options. Then, most programs focus on memorization. We focus on think. Memorization has a ceiling, and it only works on questions about the thing you memorized. The exam is roughly half situational judgment questions. You cannot memorize a scenario you've never seen. A framework travels, a fact doesn't. AI as a study partner, not a shortcut. I said this earlier, but it's a differentiator, so I'll say it once more. The AI in this program is configured to make you reason before it responds. It asks you what the real problem is, which two answers you're stuck between. What risk is most urgent? Then it debriefs you. If you just want an answer machine, this program will frustrate you. And honestly, you don't need me for that. This is Think. And Think is a reasoning framework that you apply when you're studying, and through repetition, you do it so much that once you get into the exam, it's second nature. So there's 5 prompts in this order. The T stands for think strategically. What is the real problem? Scenarios usually describe a symptom, a complaint, a missed deadline, or a conflict. and the tested problem sits underneath it. Fix the symptom, leave the problem, and you pick the wrong answer that actually felt right. H stands for human impact. Who's affected? It's not pick the nicest option. It's account for consequences a purely procedural reading would miss. And then I stands for identify the risk, not list the risk, rank it. So treating every risk as equally urgent is itself an error. Something has to be contained first. And then the N stands for navigate stakeholders. Who owns this decision? Half of all bad distractors are wrong because they escalate past the owner or defer when HR already held the call. They could make the decision. And then K is know the best response. Everything converges here. The honest caveat in this box, you're not going to run all 5 at depth on 134 questions in 4 hours. You'd never finish. Most items turn on 2 or 3. You run all 5 fast, and you slow down on the ones that actually decide it. And that's a skill you build with reps, which is exactly what the practice engine is for. 2 more tools. And I want to be clear about the relationship because people assume these are 3 competing frameworks. They're not. They're one system applied at 3 different moments when you're taking exam questions. Think structures the whole analysis. Calm steadies you on a hard item, and best breaks a final tie. Best, this is the one people tell me changes their score. You've narrowed it to 2. Both are reasonable. Both are things you actually do. But what now? Most candidates flip a mental coin and pick one that feels the kindest. Run both through these 4 lenses, whether it's business alignment, an ethical or legal issue, is there some kind of strategic impact, and the talent and human outcome. The one that holds up across all 4 wins. And why does this work? Because tempting distractors almost always fail at least one of those lenses. It's kind, but doesn't solve the real issue. It's legally airtight, but ignores the business. It's strategic, but abandons the person. Naming the lens it fails is how you reject it with confidence instead of just shrugging and flipping that coin. And note the order sequence of first, best, second. Timing separates most close pairs. Best is for when both answers sit at the same point in the sequence and timing doesn't separate them. The exam is 4 hours, is a long time. Somewhere in there, questions will spike your heart rate, and calm is a method to center yourself, take a breath, analyze the question, look it over again, and then move on. Come back to it later if you need to. Either pick an answer or move on, flag it to answer it at the end. The mantra you need to remember is calm mind, clear facts, best next step. Most missed questions aren't knowledge gaps. It's because they read too fast, they get too nervous, their brain shuts down. Calm buys you the 8 seconds that fixes that. I'm going to read this scenario. A complaint about a supervisor arrives late Friday. The supervisor is scheduled to lead the employees team all next week. HR has a documented investigation procedure and an anti-retaliation policy. What is the most appropriate first action? A, launch an investigation immediately. B, schedule respectful workplace training. C, escalate to the executive team. Or D, take an interim step separating the parties pending investigations. Most people picked A. And you're not wrong about HR launching the investigation. It's exactly the right thing to do. It's just not the first thing to do. So if we went through think, we're going to be thinking about symptoms. Presenting symptoms is a comment. The underlying problem is the potential retaliation and safety exposure over the coming week. H, the complaint's safety and sense of protection, also the supervisor's right to a fair process. I would be the urgent risk is time bound. Monday's coming, everything else can wait. That cannot. And then if we look at N, HR owns the initial procedural response. Leadership may be informed, but the interim step doesn't require waiting for consensus. And then K, the interim step contains the risk and preserves the process. Notice what happened. Nobody in this room liked knowledge. The people who picked A, which was all of you, know more about investigations than most people. A sequencing error. And that's the single most common reason capable people fail this exam. That's what the framework prevents. Not because it makes you smarter, because it makes you ask, is there an active threat before you ask, what's the right HR action? The correct answer is D. If we walk through the think framework and look at T, presenting symptoms is a comment. The underlying problem is potential retaliation and safety exposure over the coming week. The complainant's safety and sense of protection, also, we have to balance it with the supervisor's right to a fair process. I, the urgent risk, is time bound. Monday's coming, everything else can wait, but that cannot. N is HR does own the initial procedural response. Leadership may be informed, but the interim step doesn't require waiting for consensus. And K, the interim step contains the risk and preserves the process. Notice what happened. Nobody in this room lacked knowledge. The people who picked A know more about investigations than most people. It was just a sequencing error. And that is the single most common reason capable people fail the exam. That's what a framework prevents. Not because it makes you smarter, because it makes you ask, is there an active threat? Before you ask, what's the right HR action? Now, I do want you to understand this. A framework you hear once is a nice idea. A framework you run 400 times is a reflex. And here's how you get the reps. My program, HR Certification in the Age of AI, is going to cover all of these different areas to help you prepare for your HR certification exam. I'm going to be doing live coaching on Saturdays, and I will be recording those sessions in case you can't make it. Live matters. I can see your reasoning break in real time and correct it in the moment. That's the coaching problem. Everything is recorded. So if your Saturday explodes, you haven't lost the whole week. The material you will receive as part of the program is 20 self-paced, on-demand modules. You'll also have study guides, workbooks, games, templates, tools. This is the content layer, and I'll be honest with you, this is the part that's most similar to what other programs give you. The Basque is the Basque. The difference isn't that my content is a secret. It's that every guide is built to point you back at that framework. The terminology references gives you definition and the exam traps. The HR decision cycle maps the same reasoning, and that is key. You probably received a prompt that you can paste in any GPT, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity. AI prompts and question generators are one thing. I have actually built a GPT that's a prompt engine for you. It's not just giving you questions, but it analyzes your response and your patterns and will give you feedback. The old model was the book had 200 questions or even 500 questions. You do need them. Now you've memorized 200 questions, which is a different skill than passing. The practice engine, AI prompts and question generators, games, personalized plans, power hours. This is the differentiator in my program. The old model was maybe a book of 200 questions. You do them, now you've memorized 200 questions, which is a very different skill than passing the exam. You might use the SHRM learning system that has hundreds of questions that are different, but once you go through those, that's it. The new model is unlimited scenarios generated at your weak spots that make you reason before you respond. Missing sequencing on employee relations. Here are 15 more, all sequencing all employee relations. That was never possible before. And personalized plans built from your exam date, your actual weekly hours that you want to spend or even can spend on studying, and your diagnostic where you need to actually focus, not a generic 12-week calendar that assumes everyone has the same life. And here's what I will not promise. I will not promise you a passing score. I can't. Nobody can. If you encounter a prep program that guarantees you'll pass, that guarantee tells you something about that program, not about your odds. What I'll promise is a repeatable decision process and enough reps that make it a reflex. What you do with it on exam day is yours. These are the 6 questions I get most. Which certification should I take? Well, I want to tell you something. It's not about years, it's about the altitude of your work. The CP is operational. You implement, you apply policy, you execute. The SCP is strategic. You set direction. You align HR to business strategy. You lead through others. A 15-year generalist who's primarily operational may be better CP candidate than an SCP candidate. Check the eligibility requirements in the SHRM handbook. Those are theirs. It's not mine. They're specific about education in years, but the honest test is, does your daily work look like doing or like directing? And the same goes for the SPHR or the PHR. PHR is more operational and SPHR is more strategic. How long should I study? The real answer is it depends, just like everything in HR. So let me give you the variables instead of a fake number. It depends on your exam date, your honest weekly hours, where your diagnostic lands. What I'll tell you is what not to do. Don't cram. Retention collapses. And don't overload the final 48 hours. The last 2 days are for consolidation, sleep, and logistics, not new material. Anyone who tells you X number of weeks without knowing your diagnostic is guessing. What if I failed before? I get often. First, a retake is not a verdict on your daily HR ability. I want to say that plainly because I've watched people carry it like it is. Second, and this is the practical point, most people who failed the exam did not fail because of knowledge. They failed on reasoning, sequencing, scope, or missing the task word. So if your response to a fail is study harder, read it again, you may be repeating the thing that didn't work with more hours attached to it. The high value move is to find your error pattern. And that's what the diagnostic does. If you're consistently missing sequencing on employee relations items, that's a specific fixable thing. And it's not fixed by rereading the BASC. Retakes often do very well in this program precisely because they've already proven they can learn the content. So how does AI fit without becoming a crutch? By design and by discipline, because willpower loses. The coach is configured to make you reason first. It asks what the real problem is, which 2 answers you're deciding between, and what risk is most urgent. Only then does it debrief you. And you can be skeptical here, and you should be. AI can be confidently wrong. And that's precisely why frameworks came first and the AI is built around them. The AI isn't the authority, the reasoning discipline is. The AI is about how you get 400 reps instead of 40. If you want a machine that hands you answers, one exists and it's free, it won't help you. How is this different from Pocket Prep or the SHRM learning system? They're good tools. I've used them for years. I've not used Pocket Prep, but I've used SHRM for the last 30 years. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The SHRM learning system is the official content. It's comprehensive, it's authoritative, and if you want material, it's the material to get. Pocket Prep is excellent for drilling you on your phone or in a waiting room. I've had some people love it. I've heard some people hate it. They say it's just not hard enough. Here's the honest distinction. Both are primarily content and drill. They tell you what they test, recall. Neither teaches you a decision process for choosing between two defensible answers, and neither coaches your reasoning in real time. They're not competitors so much as different layers. Some of my people use the learning system alongside this, and that's fine. I'd rather you pass than to be loyal to me. The gap I built for is nobody teaches you how to choose. So who's this for and not for? It's for experienced HR professionals who know the material and freeze between two answers. Retakes who need a different approach, not more hours. People who want to understand why the answer is the answer, not for someone brand new to HR who needs foundational content. Start with the learning system. It's not for someone who wants an answer key without the reasoning, because my program will frustrate you. It's also not for someone who can't commit to weekly time. The reps are the program. I'd rather tell you it's not a fit than take your money and have you find out in week 3. So let me close where I started. Tonight wasn't about convincing anyone to join. I meant that at the top, and I mean it now. It was about helping you determine whether this is the right path for you. Because here's my actual position. A prep program only works for the person it fits. If you sit down in week 2 and realize this isn't how you learn, nobody wins. You've lost time. You've lost time you don't have. And I've lost the thing I care about most, which is that this program works for the people in it. So if what you heard tonight resonates, the frameworks, the emphasis on judgment over recall, the way AI gets used here as a partner that makes you reason rather than a shortcut that reasons for you, if that sounds like how you want to prepare, I would love for you to join one of my cohorts. And if it doesn't resonate, that's a useful answer too. I'm not being gracious for effect. Take whatever was useful tonight, take think, take calm, use them for whatever program you choose, go pass your exam. That outcome is a good outcome for me. I'll leave you with the line I say most often because it's the whole thing compressed. You don't need certainty on every question. You need a repeatable decision process. That's true on the exam. It's also true on Monday morning when a complaint lands on your desk and nobody knows what to do. Thank you for your time and good night.